Hello, everyone. We're just waiting for the chair. As soon as he gets here, we will start the meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. I see Deb coming through. And there's Dell. And then Henry. Perfect. All right. Well, we're all here. I will call this additional meeting to order at 11:48. And thank you, everyone, for adjusting your schedules and joining us. The purpose of today's meeting is we had voted to approve our recommendation to move forward, but upon review, it was recommended that we essentially that the recommendation, there was not sufficient rationale in the documentation for it to be supported at council. And in consultation with our CAO, that we revise what our recommendation was to either provide a rationale for why we did not choose to recommend the average cost dollar per citizen, or actually recommend the average dollar per citizen and then allow for the council to elect the method by which they would adopt that, whether it was a one-time increase or a phased-in increase, which we had recommended in the first place. So we'll have a conversation about that. Robert, did you want to address that?
Thank you, Chair Riley. I very much appreciate the work that the committee has done thus far in this project. I think the approach that you've taken is quite supportable. So 3 particular areas of change that I'm recommending be made to the document. The first is in the community comparisons, you had included in the math Colwood. And so I suggested we strike that from the math. And so we purely compare to those others. That brings the average to 322 per person. The second area of change in your phase in, I would recommend an approach where you phase in either over 1 term of council, so from the years 23 to 26, or over 2 terms of council from the years 23 to 30. With the primary option being the one-time reset. And then if council is desirous to phase that over time because of the capacity of the community to absorb the change, then the 2 other options are a 1-term phase in or a 2-term phase in. The third area of change that I recommend, this is the work that you've done, which again, I believe is quite supportable, is based on population. And so you had recommended that these matrices, whatever they land on, be adjusted annually by inflation. And I'm recommending as well that they be adjusted annually by our new population estimate, because that would be consistent with the methodologies that you've used in your documents thus far. So those are the 3 areas of change. Your primary recommendation that we use this list of comparable communities has not changed. Thank you, Chair Riley.
Thank you very much for the rationale. I thoroughly agree that certainly the comparisons, we should not have included Colwood in that. I don't know why that was. It's just bad statistics. So that the average should be $3.22 and not the $3.08, which had been our original number. And then the recommendation then to recommend that council increase to the $3.22, and then the phased approach is the next item on the table. So I'll open the floor up to discussion from Deb and Adele and Henry. If they want.
Yeah, Mike, I guess I had upon review of the document that was sent today, I did have one question or comment to make about the comparable communities that we looked at. One thing that kind of shot out at me was two of the comparables. One was for Oak Bay, and the other one, Metchosin, and the other one was for White Rock. That seemed like it's an outlier. The amounts, and I also thought Oak Bay might be an outlier based on it being too low. So if we are looking at our list of comparables, those 3 might be things that we might want to consider whether we should include in our calculation or not.
Okay, thank you, Henry. When we put together the list of comparables in the first place, we already removed the highest and the lowest from the larger pool of comparables. So I think at any time that we have a list, we're always going to have a top and a bottom. So at some point we could always be stripping out the extremes. But I think because both Metchosin and Oak Bay are proximate to Colwood, I think they are reasonable comparables. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think you are. I guess I'm always in the back of my mind kind of balancing a pure number comparable versus the responsibilities of the council and stuff like that, whether that factored into the amounts that they have. So I'm always trying to kind of see what that fair balance is between how we evaluate. If it's a sheer number game, then that's one thing, but if we try to consider other things, that's a different.
Yeah, that makes sense. And one of the discussions we had last week when we were talking about developing a rationale, throughout the process, we did discuss, why does White Rock have this number, and why does Cranbrook have that number? And really without a more exhaustive examination of the intricacies of each of the communities, I don't think that we were ever in a position to understand why one compensation was one for another. And by extension, for us to then say, well, we'll only recommend it to $2.80. Well, I know that was, as I described it, that's the art of this. It was really more of a feeling and nothing that we could justify or explain later on. So I thank our Chief Administrative Officer for having made that recommendation, especially since he's had the experience of working in multiple municipalities and gone through the process before. So thank you, Henry. Deb or Del, did you have comments?
No, I think the recommendations set forth are amenable to those, and it makes sense to me. And the phasing as well, going over 2 terms as an option definitely flattens that big, the changes and maybe a desirable option for council to consider, depending on, as we're facing higher degrees of cost of living and inflation. So that may be more palatable to the constituents of Galwood to lessen their property tax increases over time, or at least decrease the increase.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like you agree with comparables and the number that resulted with the recommendation for the phased in options, and do you also agree to recommend that the resets be based on both on CPI and on the population?
Yes, it makes sense that they're equivalent. Like we already factored them into the equation before. It would only make sense to keep those variables within the equation going forward.
Okay, thank you. Deb, did you have comments?
I don't have any comments contrary to the recommendations that have been made by council. I think the recommendations that have been put forward, both from us and from the revisions to the document, it gives the council the latitude I think that they need in order to make decisions moving forward, whether that be, short term or longer term. So I concur. I think it's great.
Okay, perfect. Then at this point, I'm just going to call. Go ahead, Henry.
Can I ask one question? Like the last time we met, one of our recommendations was based on CPI plus 6%, 7%, 8%. In this one, I don't see the 6%, 7%, 8% in there. So are we adjusting this to be CPI plus a calculation based on population and not the additional increase?
So the calculation it is really just if we're going to go from where we are now at $1.74 to $3.22, it's not related to the matrix that we had before with the 6%, 7%, 8%. It really is a scale of the dollars, whether it's a one-time or over 4 years or over 8 years. And then it was CPI and then population. Robert, did you want to comment?
Thank you, Chair Riley. Once this moves forward and council makes a determination, either option 1, 2, or 3, annually, these matrices would be adjusted by both CPI ending June the previous year and a new population estimate. In that manner, the community wouldn't fall behind if it were growing and or if inflation were to continue aggressively. So each year, once they choose a path, these matrices will change.
One question on the population data. You said an estimate of population. I know with the census, there's only it's every few years. So what is the what is the tool using to estimate population?
The city will rely on the province who generates an annual estimate for all municipalities. And so that way it's a kind of a third party vetted approach.
Okay. So vital stats, yeah, or BC stats. Okay, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your comments and thoughtful observations. I'm going to call then for a vote from the panel to adopt the amended report as you received earlier today with no further changes. Those in favor, show of hands. Perfect. Seeing none opposed, then the motion has been adopted and the amended Council Remuneration Review Committee report is approved. Oh, yes. Thanks, Amanda. Before we sign off, to adopt the minutes from the previous meeting of June, what was the date? June 24th. Those in favor? Henry, Del, Deb, thank you. Seeing none opposed, the minutes are adopted. Thank you. All right. Seeing no further business on this, I will call the meeting to adjourn at noon. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy your summer.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
everybody.